4, 16. Darren, those are the magic numbers.
Sounds like a fight song, Brian. I'm ready for football season.
Well, they should be easy numbers to remember. 2, 4, and 16. You have to remember those on your farm, and it all comes back to harvest loss. What do you got there, Darren?
Well, I don't know. When you're standing up that high, it's hard for me to know, Brian, but I'm holding here one of the handiest tools that a farmer can have, and it's really easy to make. It's basically a piece of PVC pipe with 4 elbows, and we just cut it out so there's a 12-inch by 12-inch opening in the middle. All you need is to take this out behind your combine and throw it on the ground and see how many kernels of grain are laying there in that square foot.
So where the 2, 4, 16 comes to is how many seeds you need to see 1 bushel of yield loss. So in other words, with corn, it takes 2 inside this little 1-foot square, soybeans 4, and wheat 16 seeds inside that square, and then you've got 1 bushel of yield loss with each of those crops. Now, don't get me wrong, it could definitely vary depending on the size of the seed, but that's a pretty good number. That'll get you real close. The main thing is we just want you to get off the combine and check this stuff out when you're out there harvesting.
Well, when you talk about harvest loss, it's not a sexy topic. You guys don't say, well, you know, this is a fantastic thing, and I'm going to talk to all my friends about how my harvest loss went down by a couple of percent from last year. No, nobody really talks about this, yet it's one of the biggest economic things that could impact your farming operation, because just think about it. Let's say you lose 2 bushels of beans and leave them lay out in the field. Well, you say, wow, you know, it's not that big a deal. I still got 50 bushel yield. Well, yes, but you could add 2 more bushels times almost $10 per bushel. That's $20 an acre. If you farm 1,000 acres of soybeans, that's $20,000 you just lost. Yet, when you look at a little square like this, 2 bushels would only be 8 little soybeans in this whole area. It wouldn't look like it was that big a deal laying on the ground, but it'd be a $20,000 loss for you. That's huge.
Well, the other thing is, let's turn to corn. If you had some corn seeds on the ground, not only do you have the loss from this year, you're going to have volunteer corn going into next year, so now you have to spend more money for weed control. So it's a big deal this year and in the future.
When we talk about combine loss, there are a few different places that it could be at. Let's get into that of where you're going to see loss.
So there are 3 main areas. There's the pre-harvest loss, there's the loss from the header, and then there's the separator loss. So pre-harvest loss, that's when your brother, for example, goes out there cultivating or just driving the tractor through and he runs a whole bunch of crop
What brother
over.
are you talking about?
Or there could be deer. We're standing in an area right here that's usually devastated by deer. Who knows what's going to cause it? It could be hail, a number of things. What you want to do is evaluate your fields first before you start harvesting. Find out how much is on the ground before you run the combine through. Then let's talk about the header and the separator loss.
Okay, now when we're talking about header loss, sometimes the guys will say, well, wait a minute, now it's a little bit hard to tell what's being lost by the header, what's being lost on the back end of the combine, because after you drive through, it's all there on the ground. How do you know which kernel came from the header, which kernel came out the back end? You just don't know. Well, here's what you do. You stop the combine and you back up a little bit. And then you look at what's right underneath the combine and you'll see what you lost from the header.
Right in front of the combine.
Yeah, you don't have to mix in anything that might be coming out the back end. You can just see what's coming out the front.
Yep, and then you do check in the back, and what that's going to be is sum total of all 3 things. But the key is to do some inspection before harvest. You find out what the pre-harvest loss was. Check your header by stopping the combine, backing up a little bit, and then you find out what the separator loss is by taking the total loss and subtracting off the other 2.
Now, sometimes I run into guys and I say, look, you're losing a couple of bushels here with harvest loss. What's going on? You better make some adjustments. And the guys say, I got to get stuff done. I can't stop. I got to get this done. Well, when you look at it as, wow, I may be losing $20,000. Is it worth $20,000 and maybe more if you have to pay money to kill the volunteers that come back next year? Absolutely, it is.
Or here's the other thing. It gets to be late at night. You're still rolling, and you say, I'm going to get another 2 hours in, and you're kind of groggy, not really paying attention. This is when a lot of this kind of stuff happens. So I know it's a pain. I know you don't like to stop. We don't like to stop either. But you have to stop, get off the combine, throw the square down, and see what you're getting for harvest loss.
Okay, now you say, what's so scientific about your square? There's nothing scientific about it. It's very durable. It's something that could sit in the combine or it could sit in the grain truck, and maybe one of your guys that's hauling the grain away,
but
if he gets just a little bit of time.
The big thing is it's just simple and easy.
If you have one made, you will use it, because it'll be a pain in the rear end sitting up in your you know, in your cab or something, where eventually you're going to say, you know, I'll get out and use it. If you don't have a square put together, you'll probably just say, well, I don't know, it doesn't look like too much on the ground.
Well, once again, harvest loss is a huge deal. Make sure you're getting off the combine and checking what's going on during this time of the year when you're running the combine through. You've got to do everything you can to try to maximize profitability on your farm. And speaking of profitability, an important thing to always manage is weed control, especially if you've got our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to control it on your farm coming up later in the show.